Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. In today's video, we're doing some Christmas ornaments for dog lovers. For my first project, I'm going to begin by priming this plastic ornament with Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer. This is the white version, which is great because I do need a light base. I'm applying it with a sponge in a dabbing motion. This is obviously going to minimize the look of brush strokes. After my 2 coats of primer are dry, I'm going to take this napkin that I got from TK Maxx and I'm going to peel off the back layers. If you have issues with pulling the back layers off, I have heard it suggested that you use some sticky tape on the back to help you actually grip those layers and pull them away. So I'm going to pull away the layers I don't need, and then I'm going to trim out the section that I want to use. I'm then going to place it on top of my ornament and work out the positioning, exactly what design I want on my ornament, and then I'm using Paint Couture's Decoupage medium in matte. I'm going to apply a generous coat of the medium on one side of my ornament. I'm just using a fan brush here. I find that it gives me even application, and then I'm going to position the napkin over the top of the surface, and I'm then going to begin using my fan brush to press that napkin down. I've just got a little bit of that product on my brush, not too much, and I'm just going very slowly. If I get lots of wrinkles, I'm just sort of very gently lifting it up and repositioning it. And I'm just working that napkin around the ornament, and then once I have it almost to the center point, I'm adding a little bit more of that product, pulling the napkin over it because I am going to be creating a little bit of a seam here. I don't mind if it's not perfect though, because I am going to be adding a trim mold around the center. I'm then going to take my scissors and carefully cut off the excess. Once I've removed the excess, I'm going to use my brush to push down the excess paper that's hanging off the edge there. And again, I've got a little bit of product on my brush. I'm then going to apply another coat on the other side of the ornament, and I'm going to be repeating the same process that I did for the other side. Just a reminder that you can find a full product list in the description below, and most of these products on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Once I've decoupaged the napkin to the other side of the ornament, I'm going to gently rip the excess napkin along the seam that I created before. And again, it doesn't matter if this isn't perfect. I'm also using my scissors to help me get that excess off there because we're going to cover it, so I'm not too worried about it being super tidy. I'm then going to add a little bit more product to make sure it's all sealed in. I'm then going to take my IOD primitive mold. I've dusted it with cornstarch, and now I'm working my Das air dry clay into the trim design that's on that mold. You can see I just rolled up that clay into a sort of sausage shape, pushed it into the mold, and now I'm using my thumbs to push out the excess clay. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to flex the mold a little bit and then pull the design out. I'm next going to be using Sealy's Quick Set Wood Glue on the back of my casting. I'm spreading it with my finger to make sure the entire surface is covered, and then I'm going to start laying it on the ornament along the seam that we created where our 2 pieces of napkin meet. I'm going to curve it around, and as you can see, it doesn't quite fit the whole way around, so that means that I am going to have to cast another small section of that trim. So I'm just repeating the same process as before, a little bit of cornstarch, pushing my clay in, gently pulling that casting out, and then this time, however, I am going to have to measure to work out exactly how much I'm going to need to cut. And I'm also going to take my palette knife and I'm going to just cut a little V shape there so that I can make these 2 pieces of clay fit in a little bit more seamlessly. I'm then going to cut off the excess, and when I'm happy with it, I'm going to add some glue to the back and glue it on my ornament. I let my clay dry overnight, and the next day I'm coming in with Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in satin, and I'm going to seal the entire ornament, the napkin and the clay. When the clear coat is dry, I'm going to use Paint Couture's Antique Gold Luxe Metallic Paint, and I'm just using a small artist brush to go over the top of the clay trim. So this is completely dry, it's all set, and I'm just going around and adding that beautiful gold paint. It's only going to take about 1.5 coats here. There might be a few sections that I miss with my brush, but I really love how this draws attention to the gold that's actually in that napkin design on one of the sides of our ornament. So I'm going to continue adding that gold paint around the edge, and then I'm also going to add the same gold to the little hanging attachment that goes up the top. I'm just dabbing that on. Again, this is going to take 1.5 coats. The second coat is going to just be a touch up. And then once I have completely painted the top hanging attachment, I'm going to put it back on the ornament. And once I did that, I felt like it needed something else. So I took this casting that I had in my stash. It's from IOD's Jingle Mold. That was from their Christmas release last year. And I'm just adding some more of that gold to the bow. When the gold is dry, I am just having a look how I want to position the bow. I don't want it to block the little dog's face, so I'm going to have it off center and on the side. I'm just adding some hot glue to the back, and then I'm going to place it where I want it to go. I did actually heat this up a little bit with my heat gun so that it was a bit more flexible. And then I'm going to finish off the ornament by adding some green velvet ribbon. And here's our first finished ornament. I think this turned out really sweet. I loved that napkin as soon as I saw it in the shops, and I knew I had to make an ornament out of it. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my next project, I'm going to be using these flat wooden ornaments, and I am going to be using some more of my Das Air Dry clay. I've already dusted my little mat there with cornstarch and my rolling pin, and now I'm going to roll out that clay. One of my favorite things to do is to add clay to flat surfaces and to do impressions, so that's what we're going to do today. I'm just rolling it out, and once I have the size that I want, I'm going to peel that clay up off the plastic mat, and then I'm going to be adding some of my Sealy's wood glue to my flat wooden ornament. I'm then going to spread the glue out just with my finger, and once I have a nice even coating, I'm going to place that clay that we rolled out on the top, and then I'm going to gently smooth that down. I also went over the clay another time with my rolling pin just to make sure it was all even, and then I'm going to break off the excess clay from around the outside, and I will use that for the next few ornaments. We're actually going to be doing 3 of these and just repeating the same process for each one. I'm then going to be using the Christmas Pups stamp from IOD's Christmas release this year. I'm just working out which dogs are going to be suitable, and then I'm going to position the stamp over the clay and press down. You definitely want to take your time when you're doing this to make sure that you're applying even pressure, making sure that all those details are being captured by the clay, and then I am peeling it back. And I'm then going to grab another one of those stamps and repeat the same process for this ornament. Each ornament's going to be obviously a little bit unique. Some of the details were more obvious than others, but we are going to be going back over the top of this with some ink, so all those details will be made a little bit more obvious. I just felt like doing it in the clay just added that something special, gave it a bit more of a vintage, unique, handmade feel. Once I finished adding the Christmas Pups stamp, I grabbed a stamp from the Winter Adornment design. Again, that was from this year's release. And I'm just pressing some of that greenery in a few sections in the background of our ornament. So again, just pressing it into that clay. I just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you guys, if you didn't know already, that I have a free Facebook group. Come and join us, interact with other creatives. I'm there to help you out with any craft questions you might have. I hope to see you there. I'll pop a link for the group in the comments. Once I finished adding the greenery, I then took my palette knife and I'm going to add some details up the top to make it look like the hanging attachments that come on most ornaments. So I'm just adding some little lines vertically there, and then I'm running my palette knife around to continue that shape of the rounded ornament, pulling off any excess from the top, and I'm just going to repeat the same process for each of these ornaments. After repeating this design on each of our decorations, I let them dry overnight, and this is how it's looking so far. Obviously, some of them are a bit more detailed than others, but I think they're looking great. I'm then going to take some of Dixie Belle's Buttercream chalk mineral paint and give each one of these ornaments one coat of that chalk paint. It's only going to take one coat. The paint is pretty similar to the clay when it's dry. When my paint is dry, I'm going to take Paint Couture's Extreme Garden Satin and seal each of the ornaments. This is going to protect that paint, and it's also going to be a great base for our next few steps. When that's dry, I'm going to take the same stamps that I used before. I'm inking them up with IOD's permanent black ink, and then I'm going to position them exactly the way that I did in the clay. So definitely taking my time here, and then I'm pressing down. I'm going to repeat the same process for each of these decorations. Once my ink was completely dry, I went in with one more coat of that Paint Couture to seal everything in, and then I let that dry. I'm then going to be using Paint Couture's Van Dyke Brown Glaze, and I'm going to be working it into all of the details that we created, making those impressions in the clay. And I'm also going over the top of the ink because remember, we have sealed everything, so I am able to then come in with a wet wipe, and I'm going to wipe back the glaze in certain areas, allowing it to sit into those crevices. And this will be to your liking if you're going to try this. If you actually do this step, it's okay if you don't want to. I like the vintage feel that it brings, and I'm able to wipe back as much as I want. You can always wipe back even more. That's why we have that clear coat underneath. So I'm just going to continue the same process for the other two decorations. If I've inspired you to try any of the Paint Couture products that I've used today, I would really appreciate it if you would use my affiliate link. I get a little thank you from Paint Couture. I will pop that link in the description and on the screen. When the glaze is completely dry, I'm going to use some of Paint Couture's Antique Gold Luxe Metallic, and I'm only going to be adding it to the little top section that we've decorated to look like a hanging attachment. I'm going to add that gold to each of our ornaments. Once I've finished adding the gold to the top sections of the decorations, I'm going to grab a sponge. I've dipped it in the gold, and then I'm just going to go around and dab it around the edges of each of our ornaments for just a hint of a gold border. When that's dry, I'm going to take some red velvet ribbon and I'm going to add that to each of our ornaments. And here's a look at our clay impression ornaments. I love how these turned out. You could definitely just do the stamping, but I feel like doing the impressions in the clay and then layering the stamps and the glaze really gave this a lot of depth and dimension and a wonderful vintage feel. Let me know what you think of these in the comments. For my final project, I'm going to be using this resin frame that I had in my stash. The frame is from an IOD mold, and I have done a video tutorial previously showing how to fill the center of a resin frame. I will be sure to link that in the top right hand corner if you'd like to learn how. My first step for this is to give my frame one coat of Dixie Belle's Buttercream chalk mineral paint. When my paint is dry, I'm going to use Paint Couture's Antique Gold, and I'm just going to be adding it around the outside just to the frame section. I went with gold here because I want it to look like an old ornate frame, but if you want to be a bit more festive, you could come in with a green or a red and then just add hints of gold. This would just be to your liking and whatever Christmas style you're going for. When that's dry, I'm going to be using this ITD rice paper called Puppy Portraits, and I'm going to be selecting the bottom right hand design, so I'm just going to trim that out. I'm then going to lay the design over the top of the frame and just use my fingers and my fingernail to crease some lines so that I know where to cut a little bit closer. I've still left a little bit of excess paper around the edge. I'm then going to use Paint Couture's Decoupage medium in matte. I'm going to lay down a layer of that medium, and once I have an even coat down, I'm going to take my rice paper and position it where I want it to go, and then I'm going to start pressing down, and then I'm also going to use my brush that still has some product on it to go over the top of that paper to seal it in and smooth it all out. I'll then let my paper dry, and then I'm going to come in with a craft knife and I'm going to very carefully go around the edge and tear off the excess. I'm then going to use some of Gorilla's super glue gel. I'm going to add some dabs of glue up the top, and then I'm going to attach this little jewelry clasp that I've flattened out. I'm just going to put it in the glue. I'm going to put 2 on the back, as I'm going to be adding a chain because I want this to have a real vintage look. I've also just added a little loop there so that I can attach the chain a little bit later. Once I've done that, I'm going to seal my entire frame with Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in satin and then let it dry. I want this to have more of a vintage feel, so I'm going to take Paint Couture's Van Dyke Brown Glaze and I'm going to work it into all of the details of that frame casting there, and I'm also going to go over the top of the rice paper but just around the edge. Remember, we do have that top coat down, so I'm going to be able to then come in with a baby wipe and I'm going to be able to wipe back the excess so that it's not as intense over the top of that sweet little pup's face, and obviously to pull it back from around the frame so that the glaze mainly sits in those details. And I just love how this glaze instantly adds age to this project. When the glaze is dry, I'm going to take this necklace chain that I got in a little jewelry making kit from Kmart Australia. I'm just going to trim off the amount of chain that I'm going to need, and then I'm going to use my pliers to help me attach it to the little loops that we've already put, or the rings that we've already put on the hanging attachments on the back. Now this is a pretty light piece, so that super glue is going to be enough to hold it. And here's our portrait style ornament. I love how this turned out. I think that rice paper is absolutely beautiful, but you could definitely adapt this to put a photo of your own pets in this frame. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video and that it's inspired you to create some dog themed Christmas ornaments for your own tree, or perhaps to give as gifts. Let me know if you had a favorite ornament from today. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find the products used today on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.